Hello, I'm David Hester, and I am your instructor, your lecturer for this 8 weeks for marriage and family relations. I'm glad that you've decided to take this course. This video is to help you in planning on how to be best effective in taking this course. We're going to be going through the syllabus and the requirements and everything that is necessary for you to make a good grade for this 8 weeks. I know this is a bit different. Taking an online class for 8 weeks is a bit compacted as opposed to a full semester, but I think you can make it. I think you can do well. I have confidence in you, and so this course is designed to help you to that end. If you have your Blackboard website, the class Blackboard website up and running on your laptop or your iPad or whatever device you're using, I want you to go to Syllabus and Policies. There is a menu on the left-hand side of the screen. I'm sure you by this time you're familiar with Blackboard. But go to the menu, click on Syllabus and Policies, and the syllabus is at the very top. And click the attached file there that says Syllabus Online MF Spring 2019 Module 2 BI 3311, and my name is listed. So I want you to click into that syllabus, because what we're going to do over the next several minutes on this video is we're going to go through the syllabus point by point and explain in more detail what I mean by each point, by each requirement. And we're also going to go into the Blackboard website. So keep that Blackboard class site up so you can go into it with me. And I'm going to point you to several things that will help you in understanding what these assignments are all about. So if you have your syllabus up on your screen, as I do, I have 2 computer screens. So I'm looking over here to see my syllabus. You'll see that the course number is BI 3311, Marriage and Family Relations. I'm on the first page. Catalog description is a study of mate selection, how to have a successful marriage, and principles of parenting taught from the biblical perspective. Major sociological trends and problems that impact marriage and family relations in Western society will also be observed. That is what we plan to try to do in this concentrated version of marriage and the family. On page 2, we have the purpose of the course. The purpose is to acquaint the student with what the Bible teaches regarding the origin and purpose of marriage, and to study current research that will help the student prepare for a successful marriage. And we'll explain how we're going to go about doing that shortly. Point number 2 on page 2, the structure of the course. Since this is an 8-week online course, it is structured differently from a regular face-to-face full semester class. Those of you who have taken online classes already know a bit about the difference on this, but this is a little bit different from even a regular online class. All of the assignments will be posted on the Blackboard class site, and all communication by the lecturer will be via email. Let me pause right here and stress this. I cannot emphasize this point enough. All communication from me to you will be done by email. Now, if you have your Blackboard class site up, I want you to go to Read Me First. That's the very top of the left-hand drop-down menu. Read Me First. Notice the very first thing that is on that section. It says in bold letters, important. Then to all students, all communication from me to you is done through your Faulkner email. If you do not have your Faulkner email account set up, it is vital that you do so now. I cannot stress this enough. And it may seem like it's redundant to many of you who are used to these classes on both online and in-person classes at Faulkner, but some of you may not be. And let me emphasize and stress, all communication from me to you is done through Faulkner email. I do not use my personal email account to send any communication to you. And any communication that you do to me must be through Faulkner email. Had a situation not long ago where a student rocked on to about 2/3 of the way through the 8 weeks, and she didn't know where a certain assignment was. And I said, I've already sent an email out to the entire class about this. Well, I didn't get it. Well, I sent it to your Faulkner email. Oh, it's a student email? Yes. What I've stressed from the very first. It's on the Blackboard class site. It's in the syllabus. It's on the video. There's no excuse. There is no excuse whatsoever. If all of a sudden at the end of the 8 weeks you say, I didn't get this and such, I didn't see this and that. Well, guess what? I've stressed it. Faulkner email. Make sure you check it. You should already have it set up for you. If you're a Faulkner student, you have a Faulkner email account. It is the first initial of your first name and your last name at faulkner.edu. That's your Faulkner address. If you have any problems, if you're having problems with your Faulkner email, contact the tech guys here on campus, and they will be glad to walk you through it. But I cannot overemphasize this, that all communication is done through Faulkner email. And that's very important when we get down to the latter part of the syllabus, and you'll see why here in a few minutes. So, back to the syllabus. The student is expected to keep up with his or her assignments and to turn them in on time. I'll be talking about that more later in this video, but I want you to keep that in mind. You are the one responsible for your assignments. Of course, if you've been at Faulkner for any length of time, you already know this, but I'm wanting to stress this once again. Discussion board questions are designed to facilitate discussion between the students. We'll have more to say about the nature of the discussion board questions and their importance in a few minutes. The 3 to 5 page essay is not a research paper. It is to get the student to think through the question of what it takes to be a good spouse, and also to help the student express his or her thoughts in a grammatically correct, clear manner. Now, will you say, what is this 3 to 5 page essay you're talking about? We'll talk about that in more detail shortly. But that gives you sort of an idea of what we're going to be doing. And we'll flesh out the details here shortly. Course objectives, once again in the syllabus. Point number 3. To demonstrate an appreciation of the Bible as God's blueprint for marriage. This will be evaluated by the online questions covering selected biblical passages. Yes, there are online questions that you must answer. They are in PDF format. We'll be talking more about that here in just a moment. Point B, to identify the meaning and purpose of marriage according to the Bible. This will be evaluated by the online questions covering selected biblical passages. Point C, to articulate attitudes and attributes that will make one more mature and marriageable. This will be evaluated by the 3 to 5 page essay and the discussion board questions. Again, more about that shortly. Point D, to consider the importance of building a marriage relationship on love and integrity. This will be evaluated by the online questions covering the textbook by Nick and Nancy Stinnett. Yes, there is a textbook for this course. When we get to the point where we go over the textbooks, I'll show you that in just a few moments. Point E, to integrate strategies that lead to strong marriages. This will be examined by the final exam. Point number 3 on the syllabus, still on page 2. Course premise, philosophy, and methodology. Marriage is God's idea. He has provided us His plan for successful marriage in His Word. Our primary emphasis in this course will be to better understand God's plan and how that plan translates into daily life. Deciding whom to marry and when to marry have eternal ramifications. So all of us in this class should give proper priority to our study together. Think about that sentence for just a moment. Think about it along with me. deciding whom to marry and when to marry have eternal ramifications. Have you really thought about that? Who you marry, the decision that you make, is the second most important decision you will ever make in your life. The first, the most important decision is becoming a Christian the way the New Testament describes. The belief, repentance, confession, and baptism for the remission of sins, which puts you into the body of Christ, which is the church of our Lord. That's the most important decision. The second most important decision is who you marry. If you think of it in those terms, it gets serious, doesn't it? It's not just something that I'm just going to get married, on a whim, or I bet this person, I think we're going to get married in a few weeks. I've known of situations like that. I've known people who met someone and within 4 weeks, I kid you not, 4 weeks, they got married. You can imagine what happened on that marriage. Well, the decision we make has eternal ramifications because it can well determine where we spend our eternity. Somebody says, well, I know he's like this. I'll change him. I'll change him. I'll change her. Nope. If that person is that way before marriage, guess what? They're likely going to be that way after marriage and beyond. You've got to get to know that person. A preacher friend of mine once said, and had a sermon actually, where he said, the time to get a divorce is before you get married. Think about that one for a moment. The time to get a divorce is before you get married. It's that important. Now, let me give you a little bit of background about myself before we continue on our syllabus. My wife and I, December 17th of last year, celebrated the end of our 30th year of marriage. We've known each other since August of 1987. We started dating in September, actually late August. Late August is when we had our first date. She knows the exact date. We started dating late August, dated for 8 months. We're engaged in March of 88. We're engaged for 8 months and got married December 17th of 88. So 30 years. We have 2 sons. Our oldest son, Will, is married to Sarah, and Will, is the preacher at the Pleasant View Church of Christ in Skullbone, Tennessee. You may not know where Skullbone is. It's right outside of Bradford. You may not know where Bradford is. It's outside of Milan. You might not know where Milan is. It's outside of Jackson. Gives you an idea. Up in northwest Tennessee. He's been there since last summer and enjoying the work out there tremendously. And Will and Sarah, have been married since 2016, May of 2016. They have 1 son, Lance. Yes, it's our first grandson, and he's the most handsome grandbaby you've ever seen in your life. I don't care what anybody else says about their grandchildren. Ours, it's the best looking grandson, if you believe that. Well, of course. I've got pictures. Anyway, Will and Sarah are happily married, and he's having good work up there in Tennessee. Jonathan, our youngest son, is engaged to be married. In fact, he and Bree, his fiancee, Bree Pettigo, she is from Mississippi, Southern Belle. They met when they were working in Washington, D.C., interning for congressmen, and and Jonathan was working for a political action group up there in D.C. after having been an intern himself. They dated for a long while, then became engaged. Jonathan went to work beginning of last year, for Governor Kay Ivey's her election campaign. He became the field director for Governor Kay Ivey's campaign, and then after she won the election in November, he became involved, or he was put on the inauguration committee, planning and events, and is really enjoying his work for Governor Ivey. And they are going to get married, he and Bree, in May of this year. So they're going to be starting their new life together. And we're really excited about Bree, being a part of our family. So I'm telling you that there's a history on my end about marriage, not only personally and also with my sons, our sons, but also with my mom and dad. My mom and dad were married well over 50 years, close to 60, in fact. Before my dad passed away, my mother's still living. And Brenda's, my wife's parents were married at well over 50 years. So there's a long history. And, that goes together. If you have a history of long marriages and you see it in front of you, you're more likely to have successful marriage yourself. Not only your immediate family, maybe your extended family, or maybe even your close friends or people at church. You see these marriages. You see what goes into making good marriages and what does not go into making good marriages. You're hearing strong preaching from the pulpit, as I was privileged to hear strong preaching from my dad and my grandfather and my uncles and cousins and in-laws and outlaws. I come from a preaching family, and I've preached the gospel myself since 1978. So all of that plays a big part. But for those that don't have those positive exposures, there needs to be guidance. And the Bible is the very first place to go to for that guidance. And I hope to be able to spur your thinking, to spur you to do a better job of seeing what it takes and making sure that your marriage is what it ought to be. If you are already married, I hope this class will help your marriage to be stronger. If you are planning to get married, you're engaged, I hope you and your fiance will sit down and read the textbook and look over the material and try to see what needs to be done to make sure that your marriage is starting on a good foundation. If you have been married and some kind of tragedy has taken place, whether it's the loss of a spouse, whether it's a divorce, whatever it might be, I hope that this course will help you in your journey, that you will be able to see that even though this has happened, it's not the end of the world, that you can move forward. You can move on, not move on as far as forgetting necessarily, but being able to move on with your life and be able to progress and make positive advancements for yourself and for your loved ones. So I hope that's what we accomplish here. So getting back to the syllabus, page number 2, comments, questions, and helpful ideas from students will be encouraged by the instructor. Again, all communication by email. If you have a question, comment, Snyder art, shoot me an email, dhester@faulkner.edu. You can do it through the Blackboard class site, or you can send it to me directly to my email address. I check my email constantly. If you send me an email, you guarantee I'll be responding to it quickly because I'm always checking my email. I have to because of things that are school related, things that are church related. I have to constantly check my email. So now page number 3. We have listed here netiquette expectations and course policies. May I add that on the Blackboard class site, under syllabus and policies, under syllabus and structure of the course, you have Faulkner Online Academic Integrity Policy, Attendance Policy, Grievance Policy, Incomplete Policy, and Netiquette Policy. All of the things that you see listed here on this page, on page number 3, are also on the Blackboard class site where you can click into it and actually go straight to the page that describes those policies. Content outline, point number 6 under the syllabus. Preparation for marriage, God's plan, selection of a mate, what the Bible says about sex and sexual relations in marriage, and the best available research and concepts on marriage success. That's basically the structure of how this course will operate, even though I'm not going to be lecturing you on a regular basis, as would be the case in a regular course or even a regular online course. That's still sort of how this class is structured. Now, resources. Textbooks, required textbooks. Obviously, the Bible, first and foremost. We're going to see what God says. He's the most important one that we need to consult concerning marriage. But then, the required textbook that you are to purchase is the book by Nick and Nancy Stennett, Mary Kay DeGeneva, and F. Philip Rice. Intimate Relationships, Marriages and Families. This is my edition, the instructor's edition. Notice, please, underneath the title it says 9th edition. That is the edition you are to purchase, the 9th edition. That is the most recent edition of this textbook. There are older versions of this textbook online that you can purchase for a cheaper price. That is not the edition that I want you to have. It's the 9th edition. The ISBN number is listed underneath the title in the syllabus, where you can put the ISBN number directly into Amazon and you can purchase the textbook, or you can purchase the textbook through Faulkner, whichever way you choose. Still, the information on this textbook is there. So make sure you purchase that textbook. It's so important that you do that. Then, point number C, under textbooks, selected material from Dr. David W. Hester on the Blackboard website. So you go to Blackboard. I'm sure you still have your Blackboard class site up. And you click into course content. Course content. Now, I want you to notice the very first thing that you see are reading questions. Reading questions. Chapters 1 through 17. These reading questions cover the textbook. They cover the textbook. So you will download those questions and answer them. And I'll have more to say about that shortly. But underneath those reading questions, you will see biblical text questions. Once again, you will download that and make sure that you answer those. Essay rubric. I will say more about that momentarily. Underneath those, you will see 3 documents, actually 3 PowerPoint presentations. Does your home abide in the doctrine of Christ? The Bible in the home? And what have they seen in thine house? Those 3 PowerPoint presentations are very important. And I'll tell you why they're important again in just a moment. So, back to our syllabus. Suggested resources, research help, 24/7 Ask a Librarian reference assistance, electronic databases with full text and abstracted articles, online catalogs and ebooks, and contact information for additional finding aids interlibrary loan may be accessed. I encourage you to look at the library website, the Gus Nichols Library website under Faulkner University, because it's a very great resource to be able to draw upon. Now, course requirements and evaluation. We're on page 4. This is what you're looking at, right? Formal assessment. Number 1, online questions. Included will be questions covering the textbook, what we just looked at under course content, reading questions, chapters 1 through 17, and selected biblical passages that pertain to marriage. Those are the biblical passage questions, or biblical text questions, I should say, that are underneath the reading questions. So you've got the reading questions and the biblical text questions. Those are the online questions that I refer to in the syllabus. This will not be a test. It is open book to ensure that you are reading the material. In order to receive an A for this assignment, you must answer correctly 90% of the questions. So, you've got to do those questions to evidence that you have read the material, and the requirements on each of these documents are specified. And yes, you will see that the numbering doesn't necessarily match on the majority of them. In other words, it goes 1, 2, 4. That's just overlook that. Still, the reading questions are there for the textbook and the biblical text questions. You're expected to answer all of those. Point number 2, essay. This will be a 3 to 5 page, double-spaced essay on the topic. What does it take to be a good spouse? In order to receive an A for this assignment, the student must meet the requirements of the rubric that is posted on the Blackboard class site under course content. So we go back to course content. You scroll down and you see what's called essay rubric. You click into that document. And when you open the document, you see on the left-hand side, it says criteria. And then there's levels of achievement: novice, competent, and proficient. To be proficient, that is to make 100% on your essay, it must be double-spaced. Notice, double-spaced. Double-spaced. Not single-spaced. Double-spaced. 12 font. 12. Not 8, not 10, not 14, not 16. 12 font. Times New Roman. Not Arial, not Wingdings. Times New Roman. 3 to 5 pages in length. Now, let me specify something here. When I say 3 pages in length, I mean at least 3 full pages. Not 2, not 2 1/4, not 2 1/2, 3. At least 3 full pages. Also, submit your essay in Word format, please. Word format. I say that because it's easy for me to grade it. And it'd be easy for you to be able to see what the comments that I make in your essay. Please follow my instructions on this. At least 3 full pages and in Word format. Double-spaced, 12 font, Times New Roman. Further, address the question: what does it take to be a good spouse? Give both sides of the question. Now, in this case, this is said in general for essays and papers. In this case, there's not really both sides of the question unless you're wanting to address what does it take to be a good husband or what does it take to be a good wife. If you want to do it that way, you can. I'm saying, what does it take to be a good spouse? You can write from the husband's perspective. You can write from the wife's perspective. You can write from both perspectives. That's up to you. Giving your opinion concerning the question. I want to know what you think concerning the question: what does it take to be a good spouse? You may come back to this essay many years later after you've been married for a while to see what you thought back then and see how it compares to the way it is now since you've been married. It's a good resource for you. Then, on grammar. I'm a stickler on grammar. I give a lot. It says 33% grammar weight. It's more. Consider this as an essay. No persistent spelling errors or grammar errors. If you have misspelled words throughout the paper, it's going to be a big count off. 2. No run-on sentences or sentence fragments. I will say this up front. Each instance of a run-on sentence is a 10-point deduction automatically. Each incident of a sentence fragment is a 10-point deduction automatically. I trust you know what a run-on sentence is, and I trust you know what a sentence fragment is. Please, please make sure those are not part of your paper. Number 3, sentences are clearly understandable. Overall thoughts fit together and make sense. If you want your paper to be an A, follow the rubric. That's all you need to do. Follow my instructions. Turn it in on time. If you turn your essay in late, 10-point deduction off the top. No questions asked. So make sure you get your essay in on time. Make sure you follow my instructions. And we'll be good on that. Point number 3, discussion board. There will be 4 questions posted during the 8 weeks. Students are required to answer them and engage in discussion via this method. In order to make an A on this assignment, the student must respond in a 6 to 8 sentence paragraph to each question and reply to at least 3 fellow students in each thread. Now, at this point, on your discussion board, the only discussion board forum that you have is asking you to tell a little bit about yourself and what you expect to gain from this course. That discussion board question is not for grading purposes. That discussion board question is there for attendance purposes. Since this is not a normal online class, the attendance is taken through discussion board for the first 4 weeks. That is this week where we have just the get to know you discussion board, and then actually first 5 weeks, sorry. And then the next 4 weeks of discussion board questions. So your attendance participation is determined by responding to the discussion board. All right, the first discussion board question that's already up is not for grading purposes, but then the next 4 discussion boards, which are numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, as you'll see them, are for grading purposes. You must respond to those to get full credit. The discussion board questions are worth 50 points each. If you turn your response in late, there will be a deduction. And the later you turn in your discussion board reply, the more deduction there will be from your points. So you need to turn them in. Now, when are they due? Okay. I will post the discussion board question on the Sunday night of that week. You will have until the next Sunday night to respond to that discussion board question. After that, it will be considered late. Does that make sense? I will post it on Sunday night. You will have until the next Sunday night to respond to the discussion board. After that, it will be considered late. Points will begin to be deducted from your response. Okay, now when you go to read me first, there is a point made about this. Underneath important, there is what says discussion board in bold letters. It says important. The discussion board questions each week record your participation in this class. It is vital that you answer each question as it is posted each week. Your attendance in this class is based on it. So make sure you respond to discussion board questions. Now, after the last discussion board question has been posted, then the assignments begin to come in to be due. Those count your attendance as well as, of course, graded assignments. So that sort of gives you an idea how we're structuring this class. Final exam. This exam will cover specified questions from PowerPoint material of Dr. David W. Hester. The format will include true, false, and multiple choice items. In order to make an A on this assignment, the student must answer correctly 90% of the questions. Now, you will notice if you look on the Blackboard class site under course content, you will not find the final exam. You will look all throughout the Blackboard class site. You will not find the final exam. It will not be posted on the Blackboard class site. Why? Because it will be emailed to you. I'll say more about that shortly. Course grading. Determination of the final grade will be based on the final exam, online questions, essay, and discussion board questions. When grades are average, I will round to the nearest whole number. I will not give a point when averaging scores. The following scale will be used to determine final grades: 90 to 100, 80 to 89, 70 to 79, so on. I expect every student in this class to make an A. All of you have the ability to do that. And if you follow the instructions as I've described them, you should have no problem making an A in this class. Unit level weekly objectives. These are suggestions as to how to pace yourself. I know that you've got other classes that you're taking. You've got time constraints, limitations. You may be working. You may have other things that you've got to do, and you've got to structure your time. This is a suggestion as to how you can get this work done and not infringe on the other things that you're doing. This class is important. But you need to have a proper balance of how to maintain your schedule and how to be able to turn in all of your assignments. And I hope that you'll do that. And if you have any trouble with that, let me know and I'll make some suggestions. Course calendar on page 5 of the syllabus Since this is an online 8-week course, the deadlines are different from the traditional semester course. Thus, it is even more imperative that you take responsibility to turn in all work on time. I've got that in capital letters, stressing it to you, please. There are no weekly due dates except for the discussion board questions. We've already talked about that. We've already covered that. The discussion board questions are due each week. But there are no weekly due dates otherwise. All other work is due by the dates that are specified below, which we will go over here in a moment. You may turn in your work, though, at any point before the due dates. So in other words, the reading questions, chapters 1 through 17, are not due each week. I have that question invariably every time I teach this class. Are the questions due each week? No, they're not. The questions are due by the date specified in the syllabus. If you want to turn in your reading questions earlier, please do that. It makes it easier for me to be able to grade them. As soon as I get assignments in, I grade them. So you'll have it graded quickly. So if you want to do that, you can do that. But they're not due each week. All work is to be submitted through Blackboard. Under the assignment section, you go to assignments, click into it, and you will see biblical passage questions, essay on how to be a good spouse, final exam, chapters 1 through 17 reading questions. Though that is the place to turn in your assignments. Do not turn in your assignments to me by email. I will not accept them. No assignments are accepted through email. Please, please, please follow my instructions on that. If you send an assignment to me by email, I will tell you I do not accept submissions via email. It's to be done through the Blackboard class site only. So there will be places to submit your work there, again under assignments. If you have issues, please contact me. I'll be happy to help. The dates, the due dates. April the 12th, the essay is due by 5 o'clock that afternoon. The essay is due April 12th by 5 o'clock. April 19th, answers to the online questions, both the textbook questions and the biblical passage questions, all of that is due by 5 o'clock April 19th. These are Fridays. Friday, April 12th, Friday, April 19th. April 26th, the final exam is due by 5 o'clock. The final exam will be emailed to you a week ahead of the due date. So you will receive the final exam by email attachment on April 19th. If after I have sent the emailed final exam to you, I receive something from you saying, I haven't seen the final exam, where is it? Guess what? I'll know that you haven't paid attention. You haven't read the video or seen the video, you haven't read the syllabus. I'm stressing to you, the final exam will be sent to you a week ahead of the due date. April 19th, you'll receive the final exam. It will be open notes. It covers the PowerPoint presentations under course content. So it's open notes. You'll fill out the final exam, submit it through Blackboard, and we're good. Now, after April 26th at 5 o'clock, you won't be able to turn in any assignments. It won't be available to you. So that means that puts it imperative on you to get your work in on time. So make sure you do that. My contact information is given at the end of the syllabus. My email address, office, if you are ever in town and you want to come by my office, it's Harris Parker, room 234. The phone number is listed, but the quickest and the best way to contact me is by email, because you will be guaranteed a response from me. And I'll make sure that it's a very prompt response. So I think that about covers everything concerning this class. I hope that we will have a good 8 weeks, that you will have an enjoyable time, and that you will learn much about marriage and family relations, and it will help you your loved ones, your prospective spouse, your husband or wife as it stands now, that you will have a marriage as God would have it, and it will be happy and prosperous. Thank you so very much. And if you have any questions about anything, please feel free to email me and I'll be glad to help. Thank you.